The final scene decoded. My Pet Goat 2 Reloaded. Part 4. Khonsu and the Destruction of Art Ceremony. Welcome back, family. Let's do this. Okay, in part 3, we were showing the signs for September the 21st, 2025, and the solar eclipse. And I forgot to show this in the Maseroth. So what we're doing is we're just taking a step back first before we get into this part 4, because I need to show just a couple things. So first, we're looking at the solar eclipse on September the 21st. Here we can see the date. This is in the constellation of Virgo. And one of the things that I had found associated with this was very powerful, and I forgot to present it in the last video. So I wanted to make sure we get this out. So this September the 21st, 2025 solar eclipse, number one, it happened in the constellation of the Maiden, Virgo. And one of the things that I had connected to this with my research, I just want to connect the dots. I believe that there's something here, because you can't make these kinds of things up. This is just something that's right here in our face. So first we see this is represented by the bride, Virgo. This solar eclipse is also pointing to multiple other things, but we're just going to touch on one of these things, and that is this close conjunction. We can see here there's two comets that are in this constellation during this eclipse. We have C2025 R2 Swan, and we have C2025 K1 Atlas. And these are basically in close conjunction with Mars in the constellation of Virgo. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go back to this Wikipedia for the Bellini Islands. And you remember from the last video, we were showing that this young island here up in the top of this image is what I believe with these two islands here is the image that they're showing us here. We're just going to back up for a second. These two islands here that were being shown at I believe it starts just before this. So it's basically 215, 216 through about 220, and then it transitions to the Mahdi. So I wanted to point that out. And then when you come to this image, you see this Mahdi with these black wings. And I believe that there are two signs here that are aligning with what I see in the constellation of Virgo. Number one, if you've watched this video over and over again and you've seen some of the latest breakdowns from other watchmen, you'll notice that they're talking about how on the Mahdi, and then also on what many consider to be the Antichrist is this image in their beard of this, what we believe is Comet Atlas, because it aligns on the opposite side with the Atlas bone beneath your skull. And then in this image, we see these black wings. It looks like they're presenting this Mahdi as the black swan. And then we see here on this day, we have Comet 2025 R2 Swan aligning with the planet Mars. So let's just do this on Meridian so you can see what I'm talking about. This is a close conjunction of R2 Swan and Mars. And we also see Atlas right there. Now, this is not Comet 3I Atlas, this is K1 Atlas, but it still has the same Atlas name. And I believe that this image of this partial solar eclipse on September the 21st is a direct alignment. And then they are presenting us with this information. And again, if you remember, we were talking about the constellation of Draco, and we were talking about how the Nazis, and you can even see this as the secret government that runs the world now, are all using Antarctica as a secret base. People aren't allowed there unless they go through a very, very strict protocol to get the proper identifications, etc., that you would need to go down there. You normally need to go down there with some type of research, or you have to be on some type of scientific exploration. And there's a lot of regulations for who can and can't go down there. So that to me screams of secrecy, and military bases are all over that place. So we know that there's something something else going on down there, and we can see how this Mahdi has many missiles behind him. He also has a very large group of individuals that seem to be ready for war. So I wanted to present that before we move into the next part, which is about the moon god Khonsu. So now what we want to do is we want to move to a couple things. First, we're going to start here with the Wikipedia for Khonsu, and we're going to just get some basic information, a basic understanding of who this is, what he represents, and how that applies to this video that we're decoding. This is not for religious purpose, as if we're trying to study Egyptian religion so that we can incorporate this into our beliefs. This is our job to decode these things that are presented to us as the coming 911 part 2. And that's the only reason we're doing this work. You will not be able to understand this, in my opinion, until you have a deep understanding of these religions that they're using it within this video. And once you know what they're presenting, then everything comes together. And I have done some deep dives into this so that I can decode this language on a level that very few have been able to understand. So originally, when I was doing the decoding of iPet Goat 2, I was looking at the solar bark of Ra and all of the so-called gods that are associated with this solar bark and um, this traveling through the heavens, because that's what it's actually presenting us, is the sun moving through the constellations and then the moon moving through the constellations. So in the last video, we talked about how the sun god is in his solar bark during the light hours, and then at the horizon, that switches to this god Khonsu, who then works with Ra, protecting against the serpent Apophis during what the dark hours until sunrise, when Ra again takes his solar bark through the sun and the constellation. So we can see how this is associated with the Mazzaroth, and that they turned all of these Mazzaroth signs into religion, and then they turned the signs into gods. And essentially, what we're seeing is these solar and lunar deities involved in a mythological story about the Mazzaroth. And family, I've got to say this correctly, all religions throughout history, every single one of them was created foundationally from the understandings of the original Mazzaroth, not the other way around. The sun and the moon and the stars were there before there was any written language, before there was any religions, before there was not one single human decoded these things without the help of the so-called angels giving them the understanding, or what I see as a misunderstanding. They turned what was foundational into confusion. And within these mythologies, we can see the original foundational Mazzaroth story. It's all connected. There isn't one single religion out there that's not either solar, lunar, or stellar. They're all based on the signs in the heavens. And then they confused them and turned these Mazzaroth stories into gods and goddesses. So we need to understand that from the get-go, that this is all celestial language that has been corrupted. And what we're going to do is we're going to show how these modern religions are using these ancient signs to present their gods and present their coming one. And they're showing both sides of the coin. They're showing us the Mahdi and they're showing us the false Christ. But within their video, they because this is a spiritual thing. And when it's on a spiritual level and there is magic involved or deception, there is law and rule involved, and they cannot do anything more than they're allowed to. And that means that they must present both sides within their magic boards or their presentation of what they're doing. They have to disclose it, even if, as we see with this, there is all kinds of confusion. So, what we're going to do is eliminate the confusion, go back to the ancient language of the heavens, and we're going to show how they are also showing us this understanding of the celestial wedding. So let's get into this. God Khonsu, this is the moon god of Egypt. So Khonsu, ancient Egyptian, also transliterated. These other names that you see here is an ancient Egyptian god of the moon. His name means traveler. And we're going to stop really quick. He was known for there's only two high gods. If you really get down to, uh, there's only two high gods. Now there's high goddesses, but the two high gods are Ra and Khonsu. And they are the ones with these bark or these boats that travel through the heaven. I do not find any other gods that have their own bark. The rest of these so-called gods or little g's, they ride along with either Ra or Khonsu for protection, but they don't have their own bark like Ra and Khonsu. And so within my breakdown of iPet Goat, I had never heard of this god in my research of the ancient Egyptian religion. Because I never went too deep into studying these religions. Um, I knew about Ea or Yah or Jah, the older moon god of ancient Egypt. I didn't understand how in the new king, because I've always been researching the ancient. But in the new kingdom, Khonsu essentially took over the position of Yah or Ea or Jah, because if you look up the ancient Egyptian moon god, we'll be bringing that up also. But He is before Khonsu. And in the New Kingdom, Khonsu essentially took over all of the attributes of the moon god Ea or Yah. And this is where we find all the moon calendars and the tracking of the moon and the celestial signs of the moon is through this, at least in ancient Egypt, through this god Ea. And then as the new kingdom came, his position and all of his attributes were passed on to Khonsu. And then they developed this deeper spiritual understanding of this god, the moon, and they expanded upon what Ea represented. And it became very, very deep to the point where this god Khonsu was considered the highest of all of the gods, even higher in some places than Ra himself. And it's very important to understand these things when we're decoding iPet Goat 2, because there's some things shown to us in the video that directly align. And this was a lot of the reason for my misunderstanding based on using Ra and the solar bark to decode iPet Goat 2. And now I understand exactly what they're showing us because of researching this god Khonsu. So in the iPet Goat 2 video, right immediately after this scene of the oil and the ice and the Mahdi, and it looks like at the very end scene, it's showing us this Star of David below the Statue of Liberty. Some of the watchmen are saying that this is a representation of the Statue of Liberty that just fell from the windstorm, and that could be. That it seems to work with the timing of all of these things because, again, I believe that this image directly before is presenting us with September the 21st, 2025. And this partial solar eclipse over Antarctica. And I believe I've proven that out with the stuff that I presented in the last video. So when we get to this sign here, we're still seeing ice and what looks to be still Antarctica, but they're presenting us with what looks to be the Liberty statue going down. And immediately after this, we see this image here. And this is vital to understand what's being presented within this whole picture, because we are seeing a sign of birth, a birthing event. And we see here that what is being birthed is this egg And the eye that's coming through this TV screen is the eye of Draco. And you can do your research and look up what this iPet Goat 2 video says about who this is. And it's Draco. Now, again, remember we showed in the beginning how the Draco constellation is wrapped around the eclipse, and they are showing us that the Draco is birthing a child. And this we can see has this snake coming out of this television screen. You can call this a computer screen or a television screen. This is directly presenting something to us that we need to look at, we need to decode and analyze. First, the thing that I saw is Draco's eye is a monetary. It's a bill, a dollar. You can see if you look closely and you look at, let's go back to this other scene. Maybe it's just forward. I probably shouldn't have lost that position. Um, Forgive me, fam. This takes a lot when you don't want to get a strike and you're trying to present this. Well, let me see if it's before. No, I think it's after. Here we go. Here it is. I've got to catch it right, and I don't have it pulled up. I'm sorry, fam. I'm not going to be able to get this exact. If you watch the video and you look at this image of Draco as he's moving through, you'll notice that his beard is it looks exactly like our United States money. And I believe that that is directly involved in these images that were being presented here with this birthing event. And you can see that right out of this comes the snake. It's wound around the child, and there is an arm that is holding the egg. So there's a couple things that we need to decode. First, what we're looking at is in the eye, we're looking at a 111 sign. You can see that in the white of the eye, and then it looks as if there is another V in the actual iris of the eye. And many of you uh, remember that there was a V coming down from Obama as sweat, and we can see this as V for vendetta, and we're looking at a 111 sign, 111. And I believe this is directly involved with January 11th because of the celestial sign that we received in January of 2024 on the 11th was the very center or the shamash of all eclipses going forward and backwards in all of time. And I believe this date of January 11th is a celestial marker. And I believe that this is involved in the signs that are developing out because of what was found in the heavens. Now, many of you don't know that you can go back to my channel and prove this out for yourself. I was doing decode language because of the sign that I had found for January 11th at sunset on January 11th in 2024 was the beginning of Maseroth Hanukkah. And I only made the adjustment from the last witness of the moon and the sun in October, and we'll be going over that. So I made a 1-day adjustment based on the signs in the sun, moon, and stars to make sure that we're aligned with time. Now, many of the watchmen don't understand the importance of the great year, which is the approximately 26,000 year cycle of the wobble of the earth. And that changes everything. There is not a solar calendar or a lunar calendar out there. Not one family that will ever, 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 ever align with the proper dates if you throw out the star alignments, because the Maseroth moves through heaven and adjusts based on the motion of the planet. And if you don't make your adjustments, then your calendar will be off. So you have to use the sun and the moon and the stars. You cannot separate any of these three wheels within a wheel. This is exactly how the Maseroth calendar works, is we use the 364-day star calendar because the sun is off and the moon is off if you're only using those to judge your days. And we'll be proving that out tomorrow during the full wolf moon. So here we're seeing a birthing event. It's showing us a 111 and a V for vendetta. And the enemy has a seed line. This is presented to us in the Bible. This is not digging. This is a war of the seeds, the seed of the serpent and the seed of the woman. And we are seeing right here that this is being presented to us in the woman. We're seeing that this eclipse is pointing us to the maiden, the chosen bride. And we see the asteroid Amphitrite, who is a representation of the bride as Mary Magdalene. And we see this with the messenger directly between the bride and the bridegroom aligning. And we see on the left hand side of Mercury, we see Amphitrite, Mary Magdalene, the Essenes. You can go look up the codes associated with Amphitrite, and you'll see what it's pointing to. This is the bride of Christ, a representation pointing us to a very specific thing. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this, and we're going to now jump over quickly. Why did I just lose that? Okay, sorry fam, I have to redo this. It's just okay. The lunar bark of Khonsu is a celestial vessel that symbolizes the moon's journey through the night sky. It represents the god Khonsu, the moon deity known as the traveler. Khonsu's nightly voyages in his bark were thought to influence time itself, guiding both celestial mechanics and earthly phenomena. Okay, now what we're going to do quickly is I found this short, and I'm going to go ahead and play this Melissa Ain Denial's breakdown of the god Khonsu, because there's something that's very important within this, and I want to present it within this video. We're going to just stop and start. This is a fair use for me to break down what uh, this lady is presenting within the ancient Egyptian religion. So let's go ahead and listen. Again, we're going to stop and start it just so that you can see what I'm trying to present. Okay, so hopefully you can hear that. If not, I'm going to put the link in the description so that you can go and watch the short for yourself. Um, but what we want to get straight is that this is what we call the triad. This is the sun and the moon and then the goddess mother. And this is where most of the understandings of the heavenly family come in. This is showing us a very specific understanding. Now, obviously, they've corrupted it because they've turned these into gods. But from my understanding of the ancient religion, they never worshiped any of these. These were actual celestial representation. And in the new kingdom is when they began to turn these into items of worship, where they started to pray to them and to ask these gods and goddesses uh, for information or guidance or protection, many different things. And this is where the corruption comes in. But the ancients, from my understanding, never worshipped any of these things. We can even see that uh, from the division during Akhenaten. And if you've done any kind of research into the time of Akhenaten, he had um, went through the entire kingdom and destroyed all of the sites of worship, and they didn't have the priestly system anymore. That was destroyed for a small time because of the corruption. And then immediately after, some say it was his death or his leaving the kingdom, is when the priests took back over with Tutankhamun, and then they restored the priestly order and the worship of all of the gods and goddesses into the kingdom. But before the corruption, there was no worship, from my research, of any of these things. It was the later kingdom and the corruption that happened in the later kingdom. So let's move forward with her video. Okay, so I want you to hear how she's presenting this as a youth. And if we go here to this image here of this, what many are calling the Antichrist, who is right here. We're looking at the very first images right after this birthing, or this egg. We see a couple images. This is the very first time where we see the womb and this bark coming out. So we can see that the bark is coming out, and then it presents to us this Christ-like image with heart. And this is shown to us for very specifically. If you look, there's actually three parts, and the one in the middle of the other one makes four parts. And this, I believe, is involved in the signs directly pointing to Khonsu, because as I've said, there are no other barks. There's only a solar bark and a lunar bark. There's only two gods that travel on these barks. You have Ra, the sun god, and you have Khonsu, the moon god. And again, remember, I believed in the beginning that this was all about the Egyptian sun cult or the sun religion. And now I realize that it's presenting both sides, the solar and the lunar. This, this, excuse me, this is presented to us as the birth of what we would see as the Antichrist. But we also saw in the beginning the Mahdi, who is the Christ for the Muslim religion. And this we are seeing as a presentation of what the beast, the serpent, is presenting as his Christ. And this is coming out of, again, forgive me, fam. We see all these Egyptian images. Oh, here's that dollar bill sign right here. It's not coming up, but you can see that that is essentially an upside down dollar bill. And then uh, we see this image, and this is the egghead. And remember, we saw that the egg was in gestation. And then it shows to us the boat or the bark coming out of the womb. And because I don't want to play it, you'll just go back to the iPad Go-To video and you can pull it up with this video, and then you can play it on your own and you can see exactly what we're talking about. That's very simple for anybody to do. So I don't have to get a copyright strike because this CG Brothers gives everybody strikes who uses their videos. Um, I have this channel is always under attack. They don't ever share with the broader base of people. They shadow ban me on a level that I have never seen in my life. Um, I know many other channels are shadow banned also, but I can tell you in years of doing this work, I have literally had hundreds of people tell me that they just never got any of the reports and that they literally have to go to my channel and pull up anything that's new because they don't get reports on it. Now, I'm not saying that is happening for everybody. I'm saying that there is a concerted effort with certain channels to not broadcast the way that they do for everything else. And that's just part of the equation that we have to deal with because of this type of reporting. So, um, it'd be greatly appreciated if we could get some interaction and get people sharing the videos. If you could share these videos with even one or two other people, then we will break the algorithms and we'll get out to a lot more people. This has been happening lately, and I finally started to notice that some of my subs must be sharing the information because I've got all of a sudden I went from growing at a turtle's pace to a lot of subs happening in the last couple months. So obviously something's working, and I'm asking for my subs. If you are blessed by this channel, to please share this with one or two other people. If you can share it on your Facebook or share it in some other social media platforms, all it's going to do is help get the word out. So we're seeing egghead here. This egghead is a representation because we see here he jumps up right after this, after Draco leaves. Let's go ahead and pull this up because I want to show this. Actually, I think it happens right after this. So then we can see here, this is a better image of the bill. You can see in the center beneath his chin is this image of the upside down pyramid. And if you're able to scroll in and look deeper throughout all of this presentation, you'll realize that this is showing us the monetary system and that the serpent is in control of this monetary system. And if you look in his left eye, this is another 111. And I've found this a lot in this video, this 111. And I believe it is pointing us to this celestial Hanukkah menorah, where all of these eclipses are going forward and backwards in time. It is a pinpoint for us to keep watch over. And so now let's move forward. We can see right here, we see in the eyes of the boy or the Antichrist, we can see the signs markets plunge and then war coverage. It's showing us the S&P, the NASDAQ, and the market. And so we know this is associated with the financial system and the collapse of the old money, of the old system of money. And I believe this is showing us that at some point coming up very, very soon, they are going to shut down the old monetary system and they are going to bring about a digital currency. And that is going to set up the ultimate mark of the beast system where we will not be able to buy or sell without their new currency, and it will be uh, directly associated with some kind of digital mark and digital currency. And so this is all associated with a monetary system. And we also see I'm gonna run past all of these things because we are just trying to focus on. There's been so many Watchmen break down all of these things that I don't need to do that work. This could be important really quick. If you're familiar with this part of the video, there's been many Watchmen who have already broken this down. We know what this represents. This is about Taiwan, and this is about China's war over Taiwan. And directly, many have done the work on that image, and then that seems like it's Venezuela. But what I'm trying to get to is this barren sign. Um, it's just causing me problems. So we won't go into it. You all have seen this. We can see right here in the girl's hair the thick, and we can see this as a New Year's celebration with the fireworks behind Baron. And then also we know that currently in our time that China is surrounding Taiwan as we speak. They're running military operations and they have completely surrounded the island of Taiwan. And so the years and years and years that have passed before this time have never aligned like they are for January 1st, 2026, because the signs are directly aligned. You have all of these tanks that are aligned. We have military movements in Taiwan, and they are preparing, and China is preparing. And we are looking at this happening right at New Year's, and this is the year where all these things are aligning. And so now we're going to get to what I believe is the most important part for us to really be looking at. This again is this moon god, and he's coming out again of another womb image. It's probably not, it's not going to show it, but you can watch the video and go to this section just before 351 and watch this moon god come out of the womb, and it presents this 3 or 4 times within the video. So now we're going to move and we're going to show you these signs in the heavens. So we're going to be looking at the star Spica, because this is the womb star. Spica is the womb of Virgo. And we're going to be looking at when the moon aligns with this Spica star. Okay, so here we go, fam. There's only specific dates that align with moon and Spica. And these are going to be are high watches for this ending scene. And that's what we're presenting is the final scene. We are going to show you all of the option days for this final scene that I believe will lead to the escape of the bride, because this is associated with the bride. And the moon in our decodes is associated with the bride. Now remember, the enemy has to present this in a way that can show their storyline, but it also has to present our storyline. They can't do it any other way. So many watchmen have said over and over again, when we go up, they come down. And I believe that. I believe that this is a transfer of energy, that as soon as the spirit is removed with the body of the called out ones, the bride of Christ, we are a representation of the moon, and our birth is represented by the star Spica. Now, I've presented this before. There's only 2 stars in the entire Dendera star map. There's only 2 stars. The rest is presenting the celestial mechanic, the constellations, and the representation of those constellations. But there's only 2 stars. One of those 2 stars is Spica. The other is the dog star, Sirius. So we only have 2 stars on the entire map. And from my work, the celestial new year is associated with Spica. It always has been, and it always will be. Spica is the birthing. And so what we have here is a celestial alignment with the bride and the birth. But again, they are presenting this as the coming out of the what we know as the Antichrist, the birthing of the child of Draco, the serpent's seed. So now we're going to move forward. We're going to show you. I have to pull up some of my notes for this. This is going to take me 1 second, family. I've got to make sure that I have this information. Okay, so I have all of these. I've already done my research into all of these dates, and I want to present to you 4 dates on the calendar that could be associated with the escape of the bride. Now, we also have the signs of the celestial wedding. But again, signs are always presented before what we would call the exit. You don't have your exit before the signs, or you will miss it. So our signs are the sun and the moon and the stars, and we're focused on this star Spica, because Spica is not only a harvest sign, but it's also a birth sign. And it's being presented to us in IPET Go in a very, very deep way. It's showing it over and over. I believe it's either 3 or 4 times that these storyboards are presenting a birthing from a star. And this is Spica the womb star. So 110, 2026, the moon aligns with Spica. Now we're going to go to 2-6. Here we are. We're looking at the moon aligning. Actually, the moon aligns before that time, but we're going to meridian. This allows us to see a different perspective. This is meridian alignment with Spica on the early morning of February the 7th. We have our next lunar alignment with the womb star. Then we're going to go forward to 3-6, and we can see here the next alignment with on meridian with the moon. We're just showing you meridian times. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's the exact alignment, because we're looking at right around here where the moon actually aligns. But I'm working with meridian because it's a far more important alignment with this Spica star. So what I noticed that is very important. Let's go ahead and just look at this. Okay, give me a second, fam. I'm trying to get this up. Okay. If we look at the magnitude, we can see that on this day on meridian, we are at 89. Now, yesterday when I was doing this work, it was 88. So let's move forward and see if there's a change here. For some reason, we're not getting the correct information at all. So I'm going to click out. I'm going to switch over to the moon because I made a mistake and I was doing my presentation based on Spica, and it needs to be the moon. Okay, so here we are. We are on meridian with Spica, and the moon is at 88% phase. And this is on 3-6. Now, when I looked at January 10th and I looked at February 6th, there was not any signs within the moon that pointed me to any kind of numerical sign. But when I got to 3-6, then the moon shows up at 88% as it's aligning with Spica on meridian. And then I went to April the 2nd, and I'm on meridian here. with spica. We can even go forward. Actually, it only works on the second. So here we are. We are on meridian with spica, with the moon coming into conjunction with the womb star. And we look at the moon and it's 99%. Now, we all know what 88 points to, and we all know that 99 is rapture. And I'm not saying that we have to wait until April, but what I'm saying is that there are some signs within the numeral codes of the moon that are pointing us to something. And we have to take that into consideration because we may be looking at a breakdown of multiple timelines. And we need to consider all of these timelines. So let's go back to this Wikipedia. There's a couple more things I wanted to point out because this might become important in the breakdown of this video. Okay, so the Temple of Khonsu at Karnak is in a relatively good state of preservation, and one of the walls is depicted with a creation myth in which Khonsu is described as the great snake who fertilizes the cosmic egg in the creation of the world. I'm going to repeat that. The Temple of Khonsu at Karnak is in a relatively good state of preservation. And on one of the walls is depicted a creation myth in which Khonsu is described as the great snake who fertilizes the cosmic egg in the creation of the world. So, bingo! We know now with proof that this is exactly what is being shown to us in this video. And I want to point this out. Khonsu's name means traveler and therefore reflects the fact that the moon referred to as Yah in Egyptian travels across the night sky. He was also referred to by the titles Embracer, Pathfinder, Defender, and Healer, and was thought to watch over those who travel at night. As the god of light in the night, Khonsu was invoked to protect against wild animals, aid with healing. It was said that when Khonsu caused the crescent moon to shine, women conceived. And I have one more thing that I wanted to show you that seems to be directly involved with this video. Okay, in the cannibal hymn of Unas Pyramid, Khonsu is named as a member of a group of demons composed of three unknown deities whose names can be translated to the Caesar of Head. Now, that's exactly what we're shown in the image of the serpent coming out of the egghead. And these, let's show this. These five bloodthirsty helpers were placed in the sky, likely based on constellations or other celestial phenomena. Additionally, they are considered messengers of death, sent forth by the deceased. And I think that was the only thing that I needed to present from this information. Um, um, I think I got it all. Let me just quickly run through to make sure that I didn't miss anything. I'm gonna attach the link so that you can go through yourself and read through all of this. Um, I believe I got it all. Forgive me, fam. I don't. I had all of these things highlighted, and as soon as I click to another page, it seems that it resets. And I would have to have 5 different pages pulled up in order for me to um, be able to go forward. But we're already over an hour, so I'm just going to connect the dots there. You can read more information about the lunar bark of Khonsu. I will um, that one I already have. I'll just connect all of these so that you can see. Um, and then I also suggest going and doing more research. We're going to go back to this video quickly. And there's something else in here that I wanted to present. Um, this video, it's quick and it does a really, really good job of presenting the things that I think are important for us to decode this video. Okay, so some people, including myself, because we thought this was a solar disk, we made the mistake of misunderstanding the imagery because many think this is Ra. There's his sun disk, but there is a crescent moon under it. Some people used to believe, oh, this is the sun and the moon. It's showing Ra is the god over the sun and the moon, but we're not understanding that this is actually Khonsu being shown here, the god of the moon, not Ra. But Ra is also shown with the falcon head, so there's a misunderstanding. And so this girl breaks this down, and it helped me to decode the language in the video. So I want to thank this channel Melissa in Denial. And this is one of the best shorts I've seen on this God Khonsu. Okay, so we're going, I believe she says one more thing in here that's very important. So hopefully you can hear this video because I don't hear it because of my uh, my recording software doesn't play this back when my microphone is plugged in. So hopefully you can hear this. If not, I will attach the link and then you'll be able to go. So here is where she's talking about this egg in the creation of the world. And this is important information that I just showed you from the Wikipedia. And then she connects this to this this movie Moonlight. And I haven't done any research into this Moonlight video. And so I'm going to spend today researching this Moonlight movie. And I'm going to come back and do a decode on how this is associated with iPet Goat and with the concepts of Khonsu and what they're presenting to us in this storyline. So I'm going to go ahead and attach these things for you to do your due diligence and your homework. I'm sure that many of you will come up with some things that I haven't seen. So go ahead and drop anything that you find in the comments for the rest of the body of Messiah. Thanks for coming. I'm going to come back, like I said, and we're going to do a deep dive into this Moon Knight movie. So much love. We will see you back here very soon.